Hey there, my name is James Lee. Welcome to my channel 5149, where I talk business, politics, and society. Before jumping into today's topic, I just want to give a quick shout out to all you wonderful people out there who support my work. Your kind words and engagement definitely keeps me going and making new videos every week, so thank you. Alrighty, today I want to talk about big tech, specifically the incredible ways the Amazons and the Googles of the world control all of us. You know, they control a lot of what we see on the internet, the news we consume, where we buy our goods, and even what goods we should be buying. According to a new Pew Research study, 56% of Americans support more regulation of major technology companies. And interestingly, there's not much of a partisan divide on this issue, with more than 50% of Republican and Democratic voters feeling that even if major technology companies follow the rules, the government should not allow these companies to grow beyond a certain size because it hurts competition. And that got me thinking, on major economic issues, our country isn't really separated by a left and right divide. It's separated by those who make the rules and then everybody else. The reality is big tech companies, despite some of the grandiose or altruistic narratives they've tried to promulgate, they pretty much function the same as any other giant corporation, and that they want to make as much money as possible. And it's a lot easier to do that if you have a hand in writing the rules. And over just this past year, they've shown incredible adeptness, if I can use that word, at influencing legislation in their favor. In California, companies like Uber and Lyft spent over $200 million to basically write their own law permanently excluding online platform workers from labor protections. And they were able to do so partly by bombarding Californians with misleading mailers about the ballot initiative. Some voters now say they regret casting their ballots for Prop 22. I definitely feel deceived, said Lindsay Shaffron, 27 of Modesto, who voted in favor of Prop 22. We all felt that Prop 22 was going to help the drivers, and Uber and Lyft were going to be paying them more, when really they're just trying to save their own pockets. Very true, and I'm pretty certain they thought this kind of buyer's remorse might happen. So included in Proposition 22's fine print is a requirement that the measure cannot be modified with less than 7/8 of the state's legislature's approval, all but ensuring it cannot be overturned. Kind of wild, right? And then there's also this other technique of influencing elected representatives through campaign contributions. For example, Dustin Moskowitz, a co-founder of Facebook and CEO of Asana, gave more than $20 million to Future Forward, a Democratic political action committee that spent nearly $100 million on pro-Biden ads. Eric Schmidt, the former Google and Alphabet executive, also gave to candidates across the country, as well as donating more than $2.5 million to the Democratic super PAC Future Forward and giving more than $120,000 to Democratic committees in swing states like Florida, Pennsylvania, Texas, Arizona, and North Carolina. I know this isn't like, here's a briefcase full of cash and here's what I want in return, but I would argue that these people don't build trillion-dollar businesses by handing out free money. They're definitely looking for something in return. Right now, there's a bill in Congress called the Ending Platform Monopolies Act, aimed at restricting how big tech companies offer their products to ensure they don't use their size to dominate the market. However, despite its good intentions, the market reaction to the Judiciary Panel approving the legislation was muted. Shares in big tech companies, in fact, rose after investors found the House proposal to be no real threat. Like I said, the exchange of money from big tech CEOs to campaigns or super PACs are all legal, but you can't argue against the fact that humans are innately influenced by these types of transactions, and the person giving the money is perhaps looking for something, and the person receiving the money might think a little bit more carefully about going against what that person might want. In the case of big tech, it's in their DNA to block any kind of regulatory action that could potentially impact their business, and there's no doubt the public is very wary of how much monopolistic power big tech actually has. I mean, just as an example, Google, as of June 2021, owns 87% of all search traffic. So yeah, Google can direct your thoughts and questions however they see fit. And with that kind of power comes the need to convince people that all that power is being used for good. Because like kings and queens of years past who have abused their power, people eventually will come together to overthrow a tyrannical monarch. So these companies have to try to condition people into believing that big tech companies exist to make our society a better place, similar to how the government and the media work together to manufacture consent for foreign wars by making us believe that it's necessary for national security or the survival of democracy, something along those lines. And one way to influence opinion is through social media, which is a big part of why all of these companies have adopted the most socially progressive veneer possible. How can we be the bad guy if we support gay marriage and climate change and all the other good things? They also fund think tanks, advocacy groups, and trade associations on both the left and the right. According to bigtechfunding.org, groups from all over the ideological spectrum, like the Cato Institute on the right and the Center for American Progress on the left, have all received funding from big tech companies like Google, Amazon, and Facebook. Like I was saying before about the money, it often comes with strings attached. Even if it's not explicitly stated in any sort of formal agreement, organizations that receive big tech money are more likely to echo big tech talking points. Like maybe it is the case or maybe it isn't, but when a group like the Chamber of Progress, a trade association that has received funding from Facebook, Google, and Amazon, puts out a tweet about how America's tech industry is going to play a critical role in solving some of the biggest global challenges we face, from climate change to extinction, we have no choice but to wonder if there's some kind of quid pro quo going on, because what I'm observing is more along the lines of big tech prioritizing rockets first and climate change second. We're going to space now, but climate change, worry about that later. Big tech also has a huge hand in potentially dictating pop culture by controlling virtually everything we watch. Amazon has done a particularly good job here in terms of spreading out its tentacles in all corners of media, from content production to distribution. Earlier this year, Amazon bought MGM for $8.45 billion to acquire, quote-unquote, a treasure trove of IP. But perhaps even more alarming than that is what's going on in the back-end infrastructure. Amazon Web Services, the market leader in cloud computing services, is the back-end provider for Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, Paramount+, Peacock, HBO Max, Discovery+, and of course, Amazon Prime. Studios keep their content libraries in the cloud, and they all have deals with AWS for digital distribution of their theatrical releases, which is how most movie theaters receive and show films these days. And it's not just movies. About 1,600 television channels worldwide rely on AWS. So if you're watching a film piece of entertainment on any screen, at a theater, at home, or on your phone through a digital direct-to-customer stream, on a television network, or on a streaming service, the odds are extremely likely that you're making use of AWS. It has become the backbone of Hollywood. That kind of power is insane and potentially dangerous for a free and fair society when you think about it in terms of censorship. This is obviously a slightly different situation, but Amazon effectively deplatformed Parler earlier this year. And if Amazon controls all matters of distribution, are content creators really free to produce whatever they want and say whatever they want? Could it be possible that perhaps these companies don't have our best interests in mind when they're making business decisions? I imagine it's kind of hard to consider all the societal implications when your DNA is profit maximization. Oh, one other thing I didn't mention before, but the organization that I mentioned earlier, bigtechfunding.org, is actually funded by the American Principles Project, a right-wing organization founded in 2009 that calls itself America's top defender of the family and sees as its mission to, quote-unquote, impose a political cost on the left's anti-family extremism. I'm mentioning this because it's not exactly top of mind for me or even a particular value I hold at all, but David Dayen of the American Prospect writes, what's most notable here is how this rather stolid conservative group has been activated to fight against big tech and seems open to standing with progressives on the issue if it will help reach their goals. The founder, John Schwepp, says, I do think our differences on cultural issues are stark differences, but there's a lot of room on economic issues as Republicans become more populist. So the question I'd like to end the day on is, can we put culture aside to push reform against these mounting abuses of big tech, to make the country a better place to live, to give more people better opportunities to work, live more decent lives, enjoy more freedom in general? Thank you so much for watching. I'm really curious to hear what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoy my work, please take a quick second to like this video, share it with people. That would mean a lot. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. As always, I'd like to thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next week.